Casale on Bettor Sports Network.
Yo, what up? Welcome inside Homecoming, week number 5, right here on the Bettor Sports Network. Corey Parson and Tom Casale. Tom, we already got the weekend off to a start with some pretty good college football action last night. But today, I would say truly is our first big Saturday of the season. What's going on with you, my man?
I'm doing good, Corey. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. My better half is here.
Oh, okay. Good.
No, I'm talking about you.
Well, it's funny because I was doing a guest spot for someone, and I do the spot, and I get off, and who's in the waiting room ready to go on next? Corey.
Yeah,
and I'm like, holy Jesus. I mean, good Lord. I don't see my family this much. All over the place. It's me and Corey.
No doubt about it. So coming up on the program today, got a lot of college football action to get to. Trying to let you know who are going to be some winners, what we're going to be betting on. Want to get you involved as well. Obviously, if you've already downloaded this free app, you can hit that call button. Give us your questions. We want to get your thoughts, your comments, some of your best bets for the day. Got a lot of conference action going on today, Tom. Conference play is a real big thing today. And one of the games that we've had circled since week 1 is on the docket today. We'll get to that game a little bit later on as North Carolina State and Clemson get ready to meet in Death Valley. But, Tom, this is a big Saturday right here. I think our first real big one as we enter the month of October.
Yeah, I mean, North Carolina State, Clemson's going to be a big one. I do think there's some spots for some blowouts. Teams, high-ranked teams that didn't necessarily play that well last week that are now in a spot where they might lay the wood. But there's some interesting games here. NC State Clemson's really interesting, Corey, because I bet the Wolfpack to win the ACC at plus 1,100. And this was kind of the game, right? I thought maybe this would be the game where DJ, his career might come to an end. But listen, he played well last week. It wasn't that the Wake Forest game had nothing to do with him. That was a Clemson's great defense that gave up all those points. So I'm looking forward to watching that game tonight and seeing if NC State can compete. Two good defenses.
No doubt about it. Let's start it off with one of the games that's one of the most highly bet games on the day. It is the game in Iowa between Michigan and Iowa. Michigan laying 4.5 on the road in this one. Have seen some heavy money to the under. Also, the Wolverines are a very popular pick today. Tom, when I hear that the Wolverines are a popular pick, I think to myself, man, these sports books don't miss, but I was in a tough spot right here as the big bad Wolverines come into town.
Yeah, it's not 4.5, is it?
It's not.
No,
I'm sorry. I put the wrong one down. Yeah. It's 10.5. My bad.
Okay, I thought maybe the Michigan bus got lost coming to the stadium for a second. Okay. I thought I missed something. All right. Listen. This is a good spot to take Iowa if you have the guts to take Iowa. The defense is what it is, right? It's going to create turnovers. It's going to score points. You're not going to get a lot of scoring here. I didn't take the game, Corey. I wanted to take Iowa. Yeah. I couldn't pull the trigger. But here's why I would side with Iowa in this game. I didn't think Michigan looked that great against Maryland last week. Now, maybe Maryland's better than I have. Yeah, maybe. Now, listen, we're still in the first month of the season. Maybe I need to adjust my stuff, and maybe Maryland's a lot better than I think they are. I think they're good. I thought Michigan was in a spot where maybe they could show how good they were, but they struggled in that game. It's going to be interesting because they ran the ball against Maryland. I don't know if they're going to run the ball against Iowa. So it's going to be J.J. McCarthy is going to have to make some plays, and we'll see if he really is their quarterback that can take them to the next step. But for me, this game is taking the points at home with Iowa or a pass.
Yeah, this one right here, no real weather to be worried about in this one right here, so you don't have to worry about that. We could have a couple of weather spots as we move through the slate today. Yep. But that total, Tom, I would agree with you that Iowa is probably the way I would go on this one, catching that 10.5 at home. That total opened up 43, seeing some 42s and a halves now. Some places also got 42. So you haven't lost too much juice from it, but that's a real popular sharp play on the day. If you want to hop on that under between Michigan and Iowa, that could be the way to go as these lines move and this board is starting to light up right now, Tom, because we got a lot of things going on today. And I want to head out to the SEC where we got a big one between Kentucky and Ole Miss. Ole Miss laying 6.5 at home, total 54.5. Public all over Kentucky. The last time these two teams played was a 42-41 classic.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me to read because I was surprised the spread's this high. And then you got everybody jumping on Kentucky. That was my lean originally too. But I don't know. This is a tough one because I know this is a rare game where some of the pros seem to be on the favorite with Mississippi, and then the Joes are taking the underdog. Now, I'm not big on all the sharp and public stuff. You know what I mean? Listen, the kids don't know that, right? The kids don't know who's betting what. They go out and play a football.
The kids
game,
don't know
right?
where the sharps money is at.
Yeah, they're not saying, hey, make sure you drop this pass in the end zone. The sharps got the other team, right? The only thing that concerns me with stuff like this is I always, if it's not like Notre Dame or Duke in basketball, I always try to figure out, okay, why is the public taking just a random underdog like Kentucky?
Because they seen them beat Florida. Yeah,
because they seen them beat Florida. Exactly right. And I don't think Florida is as good as we probably thought at that point, right?
Yep.
Interesting game. My initial lean was Kentucky. I'm kind of off that now.
Yeah.
I looked at the game a little further, and the reason I'm worried about this is because Kentucky has issues stopping the run, and Ole Miss can run it very, very well. And the thing with Kiffin, with Lane Kiffin, is when he gets that running game going, he can do so much off of it with the passing game. I'm going to say that Ole Miss covers, but I'm not going to put my house on it.
Yeah, what I did with this one right here, Tom, this is one of my plays on the day. I kind of made a parlay out of it. I took Ole Miss on the money line, and I took the under. I took under 55.5. That number's now 54.5 at FanDuel. So at least it's going in the right direction. I feel halfway decent about that. But I think this is going to be a nip and tuck game. I can see Kentucky covering the number, but I think Ole Miss is the winner in this one. And at 6.5, all it takes is one tip pass, whatever the case may be, and there you go right there. You can lose out on that spread. But definitely, I'm with you. Initially, I was surprised to see that Kentucky was such a heavily bet public underdog in this spot right here. But I really think it's definitely Ole Miss hasn't been on national TV yet this year.
Yeah, and I do agree with your under call. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game than some might project. Kentucky, they like to win with defense, not turning the ball over. Ole Miss, like I said, I think is going to run the ball. It's going to chew up some clock. So I do like that call on your end.
Let's keep rocking and rolling. Got a lot of big games to get to today right now, but inside that noon Eastern time window, our first kickoff's coming up in less under 2 hours. Oklahoma and TCU. Sooners laying 5.5 on the road. Total is a whopping 69.5. The Sooners are looking to rebound after that loss to Tech. Sooners are looking to rebound versus the undefeated Texas Christian team.
Yeah, I know a lot. Again, we talk about the smart people on the show, right? And they like TCU today. They liked them before the season, and I can understand it. The reason why, I took Kansas State to win the Big 12. And again, like I have a theory when I take these longer shots like NC State and Kansas State. The reason I took Kansas State was because they match up so well with Oklahoma. I thought, boy, if they can get that win early in the season, then maybe we got a shot to do something at 17-1, right?
Yeah.
And again, they just know how to play Oklahoma, man. They line up, they smash them in the mouth, they run the ball right at them. See, I think TCU is going to get into a game that Oklahoma prefers, and that's a back and forth. Let's throw it all over the field and score some points. I think that favors the Sooners. I didn't lay the points on the road here, and I can understand taking TCU at home, but I lean Oklahoma. I think it's a close game, but at some point they pull away and put too many points up. There are going to be a lot of points in this game. I know it's a high total, but both these teams are going to score.
Yeah, the last two times they've met, Oklahoma's been the favorites both times, including one game on the road. They was able to actually successfully cover the number in those two games. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen today, but just some of the recent history between those two teams as we get ready to make our picks for the day. So this one right here, Tom, not really on my card. If I did anything, I would lay the number with Oklahoma, but I'm not confident in doing that, considering how that's going so far this season. Laying the number with a road favorite, not really profitable yet.
Yeah, and Oklahoma is still kind of a wait and see for me. A couple of weeks ago, if you remember, I took Nebraska against them. That didn't end so well. But
it started well though.
Yeah, it started well that first drive. But then last week I was like, all right, let's see now if Kansas State can kind of bully them around a little bit, like they have in the past, and they did. So this is a new Oklahoma team, a new coach, some new players. So we'll see how they bounce back. That's always tough for me with a new coach, because we could say, well, in the past, Oklahoma has been great in this spot, under Stoops and Lincoln Riley. They've come back with a vengeance after a loss against the conference opponent. But with a new coaching staff, I don't know if that's going to be the same thing. So this will be more of a watch and see game for me.
Yeah, so right now we do have some line movement hitting the board right now. It looks like we got some money coming in on Iowa. Some of the spots with that 10.5 is starting to be juiced. Also, this game I'm about to talk about right now between Purdue and Minnesota opened up with Minnesota as a 10-point home favorite. Now starting to see some 9s pop across the board in this one. Interesting game right here. Listen, 4 straight wins. Minnesota has 4 straight wins versus Purdue, but they were underdogs in those games. 4 straight ATS wins versus Purdue, but they were underdogs in those games. Today they are a favorite, Tom. That's a different scenario. That's a different side of the coin for the Golden Gophers.
Right, and they're playing well, and the status of Purdue quarterback Aiden McConnell, he didn't play last game. That's why you're seeing the high number. I actually took Purdue to win the Big Ten West. Like them entering the season, but now with injuries and the way Minnesota's playing, I do think this line's a little too high. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes there's overreaction to lines. I know Purdue has. I thought they looked really good against Syracuse. I thought Syracuse just made a great play at the end of the game and beat them. If they had won that game, maybe they're perceived a little bit differently coming in. Listen, they lost 2 games to Penn State and Syracuse, where they had the lead in the final minute. Right? They win both those games. All of a sudden, this line, no matter who's quarterback, isn't going to be 12 points. So you always want to look at those things. You don't want to just look at the final score, because sometimes the spreads can overreact. I would lean Purdue getting double-digit points. I would make this more around 8 or 9, to be honest with you. Yeah,
no doubt. I would agree with you on that one right here. Like I said, like what Minnesota's been doing, like the way Minnesota has played so far this year. But now, when you, it's a difference, Tom. Like we'll talk about tomorrow with the NFL. We talked about it earlier this week. When you asking certain teams to lay points, then it becomes a little bit more problematic. You can be good against the spread, but are you good as a dog and are you good as a favorite? I worry about Minnesota as a double-digit favorite in this spot right here, even though the season's gotten off to a good start. Another thing, Tom, have you noticed this? Backup quarterback play between college and the NFL, for the most part, has been exceptional this year.
Yeah, you make a couple of good points there, Corey, that I want to touch on. One, I'll give you an example from last night. Sharp bettors ending the season loved UNLV. Loved them. Took win total. They bet them the first couple of weeks. Now UNLV is a 2-touchdown favorite against New Mexico. Right? So they opened 16, all the sharps. So you can't get in love with teams to the point where once the market overreacts to them, you can't go the other way, right? So in New Mexico was a great play last night. They covered that entire game, almost won it outright. Yep. So you're right. Some of these teams, you want to look for spots and good numbers to take them and not just bet on the team. And the thing about college football that always makes, I think, injuries tough is if Patrick Mahomes gets hurt, right, there's a significant downgrade to whoever comes in for Patrick Mahomes. Yep. Sometimes in college, even though we might not know the guy's name, it might not be a huge downgrade. I mean, the guy coming in might be a 4-star player who just hasn't played yet, I think it's hard to overreact to quarterbacks not playing in college. It's just a different animal than the NFL.
Yeah, and you got to be careful, because you get a lot of times with these backups, you'll get these extra points, and you make an excellent thing. It's not like Patrick Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like for tomorrow with New England and Green Bay. And I'm a big Mac Jones guy. But the bottom line is the kid is thinking to join up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the bottom line. And at this point, could Hoyer do any worse? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So the Packers are overvalued tomorrow because basically the quarterback situation is the same. You know what I mean? Hoyer might be able to do better than Mac. He might throw it to his teammates and not the other team. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, and listen, Belichick knows how to win with backup quarterbacks.
Yeah,
We've seen it in the past. But you're right. It's the market's always going to overreact to a quarterback. And sometimes, especially in college, they overreact too much because there's just, and listen, Aiden McConnell's a great player. But this is a Big Ten game. It doesn't always come down to just quarterback play. It'll be interesting. I think a lot of this is what Minnesota did last week. But Corey, as we've been saying on this show from the jump, Michigan State is the most injured team in college football, right?
Yeah.
We saw what Washington did to them. They're down 3 or 4 defensive starters. They're down. They're hurt all over the place. And in college, people don't talk about that stuff. But so I think Minnesota could be a little overvalued, similar to Washington last night, because of the win over Michigan State. But that's not a whole Michigan State team.
Yeah, no doubt. And I almost, my good graces was like, okay, Corey, you got the Tulane win. Don't run it back. You know what I'm saying? And everything inside me wanted to run it back on Washington State. You know what I'm saying? I watched that first drive. I was like, I need to hop in right now.
It's like Nebraska, right? Let's go.
Yeah. Thankfully, I did not because it didn't get much better after that first drive as UCLA more or less pretty much dominant victory in that game right there. Let's head to Kansas State. Your Kansas State squad laying 7.5 today at home versus Texas Tech. The under is cash in the last 3 meetings between these two teams. This one right here today sitting at 56.5, but Kansas State laying it versus Texas Tech.
Yeah, and I just mentioned you can't, you got to be able to go against teams you like. This is a bad spot for Kansas State, right? Last week, good spot, getting 13 against Oklahoma. Now we're coming off a big win. And Texas Tech, to me, is a team that's played better than I thought they would before the season. They had an injury to their quarterback, Tyler Shaw, early. And then Donovan Smith has come in and actually played well. So they beat Texas. They're coming off a big win as well. But I think there's some value getting over a touchdown with the Red Raiders. I didn't play it, but this isn't a great spot to lay 7.5, 8 points with Kansas State.
You still like them as you don't like them today, but you still riding them behind them this season.
Yeah, I just don't want to, coming off that huge win late, the way Kansas State plays, if they can just run you off the field like they did Missouri, then they'll blow you out, right? But they'll play a lot of closer type games. And the other thing I don't like about this line too is I don't like the opportunity for a backdoor. If Kansas State's up, 10, 12, 14 points late. So I would pass on this one.
Tom, do you think, how in the NFL we have, in betting in the NFL, we have key numbers, 3 and 7 being the most prime key numbers. Some people say 6 and 4 as well, but I'll go with 3 and 7. Does college football have key numbers? So a lot of people believe that college football doesn't have key numbers.
Yeah, I don't think they're as important in the NFL. The one thing, though, I will say is that even though they're not as popular and stuff, people still do bet some college football teasers.
Yeah, they're really not as popular.
So yeah, they're not as popular, but I still think like when a book takes a number from 7 down to 6.5 or 3 down to 2.5, that still catches my eye because I think you have to have, no matter whether it's college or pro, some significant money coming in to move that number. And we saw it last night with UCLA. They were +3. Then it went down to 2.5 for a while because some early money came in on UCLA. I know for a fact. So that's a good example right there where maybe the number won't affect the spread, but just watching to see when the books move off that number, I think is still important in college.
We just seen a move just now, that total in that Kentucky and Mississippi game. We just saw where PointsBet got off of 55. Now they're down to 54.5. So the only 55 sitting out there right now is at FanDuel, if you want to get in on that, because that's probably going to move shortly as well. Let's take it to Wisconsin. The Badgers open up 8.5 point home favorites. Number down to 6.5 now. Last night when I was putting this program together, it was at 7. Down to 6.5 right now. And the 6.5 is juice. So we could be starting to see 6. So people are betting into Illinois in this one, Tom, which is interesting. Consider that the last 2 times these teams met, Wisconsin has won the game by a total of 69-7. So is Illinois that much improved this year to where they can hang with Wisconsin? Because definitely that number's coming down. Total sitting at 43.5. So look for a lower scoring game.
Yeah, Wisconsin's a team I didn't like coming into the year. I had them last year to win the Big Ten. I was hoping they could get to the championship game against Ohio State or Michigan, obviously. But if you remember, they had it all there in the last game, and they blew it.
I remember that.
And the problem is the quarterback, right? I just mentioned to you, I bet Purdue to win the Big Ten West. I thought it would come down to Purdue and Minnesota because when you look at Iowa and you look at Wisconsin, the quarterback play is just not consistent enough. I know Graham Mertz was a 5-star, whatever he was. I don't care about that. He's not playing well in college, so I don't care how many stars he has.
No doubt.
And I think they're still overvalued in the market. That's why I wouldn't take it at 6.5, but this number was 7.5 for a long time this week. I would have taken Illinois at that number. Again, now you're talking about a key number. Yep. But again, the reason I'm a little iffy is just because you mentioned it. Illinois has had trouble with Wisconsin. The reason they've had trouble is Wisconsin run the ball down their throat. Now, Illinois has a different defense this year. I think the Illini keep this game close, and they might be live to win it. So this might be a live betting situation. Kind of monitor it. See if Illinois is stopping the run early, making Mertz beat them. If so, they got a shot.
A lot going on in that 12 o'clock window, but definitely one to keep an eye on out there in Madison with Illinois and Wisconsin. Let's go to Boston College. Louisville comes to town. It's on the schedule, Tom. Louisville comes to town, laying 13.5. The total is 51. Louisville very impressive last week versus South Florida. This week, you're laying 2 touchdowns versus Boston College. It's probably not one of the more highly bet games on the day, but is Louisville a little bit undervalued in this one? Because I think they can roll Boston College.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know the smart guys thought they were a little overvalued at first. 15.5 this opened up at. Now, Boston College has been terrible. All right, listen, I watched their spring game. There was a lot to like about Boston College. Then guys started getting hurt. They didn't have the depth to replace them, and it's been a nightmare start to the season for the Eagles. I thought they would be a lot better than this. But here's what the smart guys think right here in this game when it was 15.5. Now Louisville's a little bit overvalued on the road, laying 15.5. But I kind of agree with you now that it's down with this come down quite a bit. I haven't seen much from Boston College to think that they're going to be able to hang in this game. It might just be sometimes, the smart guys, they bet numbers, right? But if you talk to them, they'll admit sometimes we haven't adjusted our numbers correctly for certain teams. And it takes a little bit for them in their power rankings to move teams. I'm afraid that they're not making a significant enough move on Boston College because they have been terrible. And I like Boston. I like the coach. I like their team coming into the season. So I felt I had a pretty good beat on them. And they just not. I don't know if I would lay 2 touchdowns on the road, but for me, this is Louisville or nothing with the way BC is playing.
Yeah, no doubt. I would agree with you on that one. This is a very interesting game to me. You know how in college football you have that noon window, you have that 3:30 window, and then you get to that 7:30 window as you get into your primetime games. But in the middle of the day, sometimes there's some games that you might miss. Well, don't miss this one right here today between Oregon State and Utah. I think this is a fascinating matchup right here.
Yeah, Utah 2 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah, 2 p.m. Eastern time. I hope it's not on the Pac-12 network because
if it's me and 7 other people are gonna watch that baby, Corey.
I'm about to say if it's on the Pac-12 network, then I just bet on the game I'm not gonna be able to watch, which is a horrible thing. Matter of fact, let me check right now to make sure it's not on the Pac-12.
I guarantee it's on the Pac-12 network. If it's on at 2 o'clock, it's on the Pac-12 network.
Amazing. I fell into the Pac-12 network again today, and now I got to figure out. You know what I'm saying?
No real channel starting games at 2 o'clock, Corey.
Yeah, of course. It is 100% on the Pac-12 network. So there goes that. I'll be rooting from a distance. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, you and 2 or 3 other people have the Pac-12 network. Hopefully, you can send me the updates. But Oregon State and Utah. I like Oregon State in this spot. As a matter of fact, over the last 2 seasons, Oregon State 4-1 as a Pac-12 underdog. Utah has been outside of that opener. Utah has been pretty good, but laying 10.5. I went to Oregon State, and I think people are off of Oregon State because they're upset at them for not getting the job done versus USC.
Yeah, and listen, Corey, I had the Beavers plus the points and on the money line. They were a 4th and 6 away from winning that game, right? 4th and 6, they let up the touchdown. But the reason I liked Oregon State last week, and I think the thing that people are still underrating with them is how fast they are on defense. I know USC underrated it because they were surprised. These guys, they got athletes all over the place. They attack. I don't know, Corey, if you'll see a team this year, no matter who they play, unless it's Georgia, who can shut down USC's offense the way Oregon State did last week. That's how talented they are on that side of the ball. Now, listen, you got to win that game. If you only give up 7, offense struggled. As I mentioned last week, a big thing that wasn't being talked about is their stud tight end is out with an ankle injury. Now, here's the thing, though, because I'm still in play here. I bet Oregon State to win the Pac-12 plus 2,700, right?
Yep.
I was hoping for a split in these two games. Okay. Now, even though that was a tough loss last week, if they beat Utah, I'm still where I want to be. I think this is going to be a heck of a football game. I agree with you. I think people are looking that they lost that game last week and it's going to be tough to come back. But their defense is going to keep them in this game. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and Oregon State's going to be live at the end.
Yep, I like it.
But if you need to know what's going on, just text
me. Yeah, send me a text, Tom, because I'll be watching. You know what I'm saying? I'll be watching Kentucky and Ole Miss. You know what I'm saying? Sweating that and trying to figure out what's going on between Oregon State and Utah as the Pac-12 network gets me again. How do you get the Pac-12 network? You know what I'm saying?
Listen, I can tell you one thing. Nobody has the Longhorn network because I have every channel. I have every station on earth. I pay like $1,000 a month for TV. I got 10 streaming stations. I got cable. I got it all. And I still haven't never seen a game on the Longhorn network. So that you always say, Corey, it's like Bigfoot. The Longhorn network is like Bigfoot. They tell me it exists, but no one's ever seen it.
Let's see. How to get the Pac-12 network? Okay, there's a couple of providers that carry it. You know what I'm saying? None that I have, but you can get it. All right, so I may have to do some. You know what I might have to do to catch this game? I may have to download an app. You know what I'm saying? Get that free trial offer. You know what I'm saying? And then back out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's the thing, Corey, is that listen, unless you really love college basketball like I do. That's where if you're just no one's going to get the Pac-12 network to watch 2 college football games, right? I like it because I can watch that late night college basketball game on Thursday and stay up till 1:30 sweating Cal and Stanford. But, if you really want to pay extra money to watch 2 or 3 college football games a year, so I think they've done a terrible job with it personally.
Yeah, for real. You got to do a better job than that. Figure out a way to I can watch South Carolina State play, but I can't watch.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You just hit it on the head. Exactly. We got a major conference and you can't watch their network, but you're watching South Carolina State play.
Unbelievable. All right, let's get ready to head out to our first break for the day. When we come back on the other side, we get to today's marquee matchups. Obviously, we got a big one down here in Clemson tonight. There's also a big game in Arkansas between Arkansas and Alabama. Florida State and Wake Forest also. So we getting into the marquee matchups. Let's take a break. When we come back, we break it down for you right here on Homecoming on the Bettor Sports Network.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
The only person, I've said this to you before, who I believe back then, of all those power hitters who truly was clean, Ken Griffey Jr.
I mean, I think so when he got hurt.
Body didn't change.
We'll never know that for sure either.
No, dude.
We've seen guys who were not big take substances.
That's true.
To get busted. So it's not about that always.
I hear you. It's just, don't you think with the way his career kind of went, you would think that he didn't take anything?
I don't think he did, but we'll never know 100%.
I'm going to keep telling myself that he didn't. The 1 year player, I mean, he's my favorite baseball player of all time. In the 1990s, Ron, as a kid, as a 5-year-old kid who plays video games and collected cards, there was no one cooler than Ken Griffey Jr. I still wear my hat backwards because Ken Griffey Jr. did it and he looked really cool doing that, wearing a backwards baseball cap. Like, he made everything the guy did looked cool. Even the home run in the movie Little Big League, it's acting, it's all, I guess, fake, but even he made that look cool. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr., you're a little bit older than me, but in the 90s, was there besides Michael Jordan, was there a more loved athlete than Ken Griffey Jr.?
Yeah, no, I love Griffey. He's one of my favorite players ever, from defensively to hitting his swing. And yeah, I would have loved to see what he could have done if he had stayed healthy, the final numbers he'd finished with. So no, I was a huge fan of Ken Griffey, and it's a shame though that all those injuries towards the end of his career just really limited the production he could put up, but he still put up elite numbers. He was so fun to watch. So I'm a huge Ken Griffey guy.
And here's the other thing too. So 1994, the season got shortened because of the strike.
And he finished with 40 homers in 111 games that year, man. And then he had 56 2 years in a row, 97 and 98, and then 48. He had a stretch 4 years in a row, 49, 56, 56, 48, 40. I mean, unbelievable. And then, yeah, once he hit like 31, he started to miss games, 111, 70, 53, 83. So think about that, all those years that he lost, and he still hit 630 home runs, man. Yeah. So if he was clean, he would have been the all-time home run champion. Again, we're all guessing here, but you would think, all right, well, once he got into age 31, 32, that's when the body started breaking out, which is typical, right, for someone who's not using anything, whereas we saw Barry Bonds just get better with age, and we did not see that with Griffey. So look at 2001, where he's 31, he played on, look at the home runs decline, 8, 13, 20, 35, 27, 30, 18, 15 to his age 38 season. Even age 39 in 170 games, he had 19 home runs. So he probably would have definitely been the all-time home run leader had he been able to stay healthy.
Better Sports Network. It's sports talk done better. Homecoming with Corey Parson and Tom Casale on Better Sports Network.
All right, first Saturday in October, you're watching Week 5 of Homecoming. Checking out, watching, listening. Week 5 of Homecoming right here on the Better Sports Network. Corey Parson and Tom Casale ran through some of our noontime kickoffs. We'll get back to those in hour number 2. Get you up to date on those if you're just joining us right now. But it's a good time to hop in as we get ready to look at some of the day's marquee matchups. And I see some numbers, some money hitting the board right now, Tom, on the Arkansas Razorbacks. They are also one of the most highly bet teams today. Alabama coming into town. Alabama, obviously, you know what they are. Laying 17.5. That number's down to 17. Arkansas, total is 61 on this one. Alabama only 7-5 as an ATS road favorite of less than 20 points. I say only because obviously numbers with Alabama are always great, kind of all around the board. But this is a spot where people tend to think that Arkansas can possibly cover the spread. I'm not betting that. I'll tell you that much, Tom. I'm not falling into that trap right there because I feel like Alabama can roll anybody at any time, particularly a team like Arkansas. Really only Georgia, probably a team that would give them a hard time. Even though Texas did earlier this year, I get that. This one right here, back on the road, I'm not going to fade Alabama, though.
Yeah, I actually took Alabama minus 14.5 on the opener.
Nice.
I just don't love this spot or matchup for Arkansas. Listen, Sam Pittman's been great as an underdog. And you mentioned Alabama isn't always as dominant on the road as they are at home. A couple of reasons I like them here. I think that game against Texas, Nick Saban's going to use that. Like he does a great job with that when they have a close game, getting them refocused the next time they have a big road test. So I think that's in play here. I also think that last year, Bryce Young threw for 559 yards, 5 or 6 touchdowns against his team, and they won 42-35. I think Arkansas is going to have to score in the 30s again against Alabama. They have the 126th ranked pass defense. They're giving up over 300 yards a game. I don't know if this is a great matchup for them. I think Alabama pulls away, but there is one thing I'm going to watch in this game. Alabama's receivers against Texas weren't the same receivers we've seen the last few years, right? They're young. They've lost a lot of guys, and they didn't create a lot of separation. Is that problem solved? I mean, we know they're talented, but they didn't have a good game against Texas. We'll find out today. But if Alabama lacks explosive plays and Bryce Young has to do everything himself again, then I'm going to start worrying a little bit about if Alabama can beat the Georgias and Ohio States, because the receivers did not look great against Texas.
All right, there you go right there. All right, let's get to the big one tonight, night game down there in the swamp in Clemson on the other side of the state. where brain wasn't that bad. So after I clean out the tree limbs out my yard, maybe by then I'll have a time to I'll clean the tree limbs. I'll come in here, look for the Big 12 Pac-12 network.
Yep.
And then maybe by that time I'll be ready to go for this big one tonight down here in Clemson. So here's the deal. The dog is getting bet right now. Clemson is a 7-point home favorite. We've got 6.5 at BetMGM. We got 6.5 at FanDuel. It looks like DraftKings is getting ready to go to 6.5. We'll have 6.5 painted by the time we get the kickoff time. Who knows? It could come down to 6. May shoot back up. I'm on Clemson tonight, full disclosure, mainly because I think that what we needed to see from DJU, he's shown us. So I'm riding with Clemson now. I'm with Clemson. I put him in the money line parlay. I'm not laying a number with Clemson, but I am not backing the Wolfpack in this spot right here, Tom. You still on North Carolina State, right?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. Win or lose, I think this is going to be a tough game. I think both defenses have talent. We'll see Devin Leary for NC State's a quarterback I really like. He'll be on the big stage. Let's see what he can do against one of these really good defenses. Listen, if you're going to take Clemson in a money line parlay, I have no problem with that. They could certainly win this game.
Yeah,
I grabbed just a tiny bit of +7 only because I wouldn't be able to live with myself in the morning if I didn't, and it covered. But this is for the most part, this is kind of a stay away game for me. I do think Clemson is a touch overvalued like they were last week against Wake Forest. I think they're closer to some of these better ACC teams than people want to admit. We'll find out tonight. This is the game. If Clemson wins this game easily, you can start penciling them in for that 4th spot with Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State.
Interesting right here because, like I said, I kind of feel the same way as you do on that. Like, as much as I would like to see like a USC get in there, or maybe like a Michigan or something like that, or maybe a Utah, whoever the case may be. If Clemson has a good performance tonight, I really think that we can start looking to Clemson joining their partners, really the same 4 teams that we get every year, basically.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The brands: Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and the Clemson Tigers. Total 46.5 on this one. Anything on the total, Tom? Anything interest you on that? Or are you just looking at the spread in this game?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's going to be a lower.
It just came down at DraftKings to 45.5.
Yeah, I was just
FanDuel at 44.
I was going to say, I like a low-scoring game, but that's not enough value for me. I would like it if it was like 52. I might take it under, but now, obviously, everyone has bet that down. And, man, in college football, when you have two teams, the offenses are still good, right? So 44, 45 points isn't giving you much wiggle room.
No, because you got one of these teams can hit that number themselves, particularly the Tigers if they really get rolling. All right, let's go back to the Big 12. Oklahoma State and Baylor today. Baylor laying 2.5 at home. Baylor 15-3 in their last 18 games. Total on this one 55.5. I know that you like Baylor in this spot right here, don't you, Tom?
Yeah, I took Baylor on the money line -125 here. I know the sharp people took Oklahoma State at +3. I'm just wondering how we haven't really seen Oklahoma State play anyone yet. And Spencer Sanders, their quarterback, has struggled a little bit against Baylor last year against that front who can really get after you. So, listen, Baylor at home, I think they're the slightly better team. I think their defensive line can dominate this game like they have in games in the past, year and a half. Thought they should have won at BYU. Now, maybe that was a bad loss. BYU hasn't looked that great since, but it's early in the year. You're still getting everything worked out. I'm going to go with Baylor dominating the trenches in this game and getting a win at home.
Yeah, last time these two teams met, Baylor won as a 7-point dog. So, this is an interesting spot for Baylor right here. I think I'm going to add that to my card. I think I'm going to back you on, tell you on that one, Tom. I think this is a good spot for Baylor. And then and as they try to make this run, you like Baylor. I heard, you talked about last night. You like Baylor basketball this year, too. Baylor's got a pretty decent program.
Yeah, that's if you're looking to bet my first bet was Creighton way back when, but they're that 100 to 1, 80 to 1's long gone now. If you're looking to make a futures bet in basketball, Baylor is back. The last year was a bit of a transition year, lost a lot of guys, got injured late in the year, lost to Carolina barely in the tournament. So if you're looking for a futures bet in college basketball, get ready for the season to start. Go Baylor plus 1,600. That number won't be around in March.
All right, let's get back on the gridiron. Wake Forest and Florida State in Tallahassee. Wake Forest are the winners of their last 2 games versus Florida State. Florida State looks improved this year, laying 6.5 at home. Total is 67. I don't have anything on this one right here, but you know what? I do. I have Florida State is my I got a Florida State Clemson money line parlay.
Money line parlay.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. Well,
because those always work.
Well, Corey, it's weird because Wake Forest is that team that every week I look at and say, why are they getting so many points? Why are they getting so many points? You know what I mean? It's like the odds makers just don't respect them. I understand. Listen, Florida State looks like they're back a little bit. They got a lot of talent. But Wake Forest is always dangerous in these spots. Sam Hartman throwing the ball around. Now, I don't know if their defense is going to be able to stop Florida State. I like the money line parlay play. 7's a little bit too much for me. This is a game I had written down before the lines came out, and I wrote down 4 or 5, and then it opened up a little higher and went to 7. So I'm going to pass on this, but I do think Florida State, man, if they can go in there and win this game pretty easily, then maybe Clemson, maybe their work isn't quite done yet, because Florida State's looking like they have returned to being a pretty good football team. And that's good for football. So we'll see what happens today. But lean Wake Forest with the points.
We're gonna need, if we don't want to see a chalk college football playoff, we may need Florida State to come through and knock Clemson off for us. So let's go Seminoles. You know what I mean?
The only way we're not going to see a chalk college football playoff is when they get to 12 teams, because it's hard to crack that top 4.
No, it really is. Those are definitely the powerhouses of this sport right here. Iowa State and Kansas. I tell you what, everybody is all over Kansas talking about how much people are really enjoying what the Rock Chalk Jayhawk, what the Jayhawks are doing right now, college football wise. Long time, big college basketball favorite. But this year, their football season, 4-0 ATS, their football team, 4-0 on the money line. Today, Iowa State comes into their laying 3.5, 58.5 is the total. A big one right here, Tom. I'm looking forward to this game right here between Iowa State and Kansas.
Yeah, I lean Kansas. I just think the market is slow to react to them. What's Iowa State done that says they should be over a field goal favorite on the road? We mentioned this before. They lost a lot of people from last year. They got beat by Baylor last week. They won a low-scoring game against Iowa, but I don't see why they're favorite today. Kansas hasn't played the easiest schedule known to man. They've played some real teams, Houston. They played West Virginia. It's not like they're just playing a bunch of teams no one's ever heard of, and they're scoring 50 points on these teams. So I think this is one of those situations where the market's a little slow to react. I think Kansas, wrong team favorite. I think they keep it rolling today and get the win.
This number is bouncing around. This money is starting to come in on Kansas. If you want to get the hook, right, you still got the hook at FanDuel. They're still laying 3.5 at FanDuel, but you better get in there quick because it's juiced to -114, right? The rest of it, we still got a 3.5 at PointsBet. Matter of fact, you're paying $1.07 at PointsBet for the 3.5, so you can get in right there. But we got BetMGM and FanDuel have that's that FanDuel. Yeah, no, excuse me. BetMGM and DraftKings have already moved off the 3.5 down to the 3. So that would signify that some people are starting to come in on the Jayhawks right there. Hey, listen, this is a tough one for me because I think the Jayhawks are trendy, but I also agree with you. What has Iowa State done? You know what I'm saying? But maybe it's that trendy team at home in front of their home crowd. I think it's a fascinating game right here. So I'm going to lay off it, but I will have eyes on this contest. If you wanted to bet this live, Tom, what would you be looking for?
I would be looking to see if Iowa State can stop Jalen Daniels and Kansas offense, because nobody's been able to do it yet. So Iowa State's strategy in this game is going to be run the ball down their throats, time of possession, keep the ball away from them, kind of control the game in the trenches. So I would look early on to see if they're having any success doing that. If Kansas can jump out to a lead, I think it's going to be hard for Iowa State to keep up with them.
Yeah, all right. So let's get right back to it now. Let's head down to Mississippi State. State is a 4-point favorite versus the Aggies, Texas A&M. Total 45. Little SEC action on an October Saturday to kind of get conference play started. Have seen some conference games, but I will tell you this, Tom. Mississippi State over the last 2 seasons as an SEC favorite, 1-3. This is not really a good spot for them. I think the Aggies, who I hate betting on, could be the play right here.
I agree. I think now we've gone too far the other way on Texas A&M. You know, they were able to hang on against Arkansas when the kid missed a field goal there at the end. I think this is going to be a close game. We know A&M is going to be fine defensively. It's can they score enough points? But man, laying over a field goal in this game, that's like laying a touchdown in most games. I wouldn't touch Mississippi State as a favorite today. This is take the points or nothing for me.
Yeah, you still got some 4s out there, basically across the board. But we've already seen FanDuel go to 3.5 on Texas Tech, so that number could be coming down by kickoff. We could be seeing an even 3, and if that game pushes, that'll be a disaster. But I think Texas A&M could be worth a money line sprinkle right here on the road.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I grabbed them live on the money line last week at like plus 625, and I had to go through that gut-wrenching pain, so I don't know if I can do it 2 weeks in a row. But, man, that offense sometimes it's like watching a team from like the late 80s, early 90s with a passing game. They got to get that. With all that talent they have, they got to get that offense up into the 2022s here and make it more dynamic. But I agree with you. I think this game's going to go down to the end. This is a fourth quarter game either way. So taking a shot on the Texas A&M money line, I don't hate it.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we still got plenty of conference action to get to, and still got some Group of 5 conference stuff to get to. And then rehash what we said about those noon starts and some of our best bets on the day. So still plenty to get to. But Tom, I want to ask you about some of the action that we've already seen so far this week. Really had a big week of college football starting on Thursday night with a game between BYU and Utah State. BYU gets the win, but they do not cover.
Yeah, and that's another thing where you have a backup quarterback in there. There wasn't much of a drop-off. He played pretty well. And again, I just mentioned this with the Baylor thing. I mean, maybe BYU isn't as good as some of us thought heading into the year. That they were lucky to beat Baylor, I thought. They got smashed by Oregon. They didn't look great against Utah State. So, listen, they got Notre Dame coming up. Maybe they had one eye on the Irish, but I don't know if I'd be laying a ton of points with BYU right now.
No, then obviously we saw South Carolina beat South Carolina State 50-10. That wasn't fair. That game was supposed to be today. The result would have been different today. It would have been like 50 to.
Well, you said during the week you would have taken the points, right, on Saturday.
Yeah, I took the points on Saturday, but on Thursday night that was only beneficial to the Gamecocks. UCLA 40, Washington 32. UCLA as a home dog gets a big win. Has Chip Kelly got this program back?
Yeah, I liked UCLA heading into the season. They have veterans on offense. I love their running back. Well, boy, he's one of my favorite players, if not my favorite players in college football to watch. They got a good, experienced quarterback. Now the defense, can it hold up? Now I bet UCLA last night getting the 2.5 at home, and even when they had the big lead, I said, "Man, I feel like Washington's going to get back in this game," and they did. So, listen, I'll tell you what. If you like points, USC and UCLA are going to play later this year, Corey. They can make it whatever they want. I got the over. That is going to be a track meet back and forth. That's going to be a football game. I can't wait for that. But no, UCLA, I think Chip has done a good job of getting some better players on defense, recruiting some better players. It takes a couple of recruiting classes. The offense is still very good. They have future NFL players at tight end, at running back. So, yeah, I think they're a threat in the Pac-12.
All right. So last night also in overtime, Tulane goes into Houston and beat the Cougars 27-24. And I just have an image, and I was on Tulane last night. I felt good about that one. I just had an image of Dana Holgorsen on the sideline ranting and raving at his players as they gave up that game down the stretch. And I just thought to myself, dog, you're not going to be here next year.
No, and I've never liked him. I've never liked him as a coach. I think he's vastly overrated. If you go look at his career his resume. He's had 2 good seasons, really good seasons. He's living off those. I don't think he makes good adjustments. The 3 overtime games in 5 weeks.
And then last night
amazing.
he lost to a third stringer.
Right? Stringer. I was just going to say, we were talking about the quarterbacks. A lot of money went on Houston when they said the starter wasn't going to play. Then the backup gets hurt after like 2 plays. They got the third stringer in there. Hey, if you're Houston, you can't lose that game. This is the kind of game that gets you
dimes on them.
Right. This is the kind of game that gets you fired. National 100%. TV, losing to a third string quarterback at home. I think and then he's throwing temper tantrums on the sidelines. Not a good look. I think he's done. And listen, you mentioned that though. He might lose that team now. They've played 3 overtime games, right? They're not where they wanted to be. Some people thought this team could go unbeaten.
Yeah, they were saying they were talking about that last night. They mentioned that this team is 2-3 right now.
2-3.
And they don't, and there's 3 overtime. They don't look good. They look disheveled.
And you, Corey, listen, now you're yelling at 18, 19-year-old kids, it looks like you're blaming them, right? I'll be very interested to see what happens to Houston the rest of the way, because you might catch them at a good number without the market adjusting for it yet. He might have lost that team last night.
Definitely could be the case. Let's go Middle Tennessee and University of Texas, San Antonio. Texas, San Antonio, they always make things interesting, but they did pull it out last night. 45-30. UTSA continuing to get it done in Conference USA.
Yeah, very good football team. They ran out of steam against Texas. Texas got better players. That's how it goes. But I was watching that game. Now, Middle Tennessee's got some players. Right? They didn't play poorly, but I was just thinking, man, how bad is Miami? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how can Miami just get whooped by this Middle Tennessee team?
Nobody saw that coming, and they brought the wood to them. I was shocked.
And they were scoring. And it looked like they had better athletes for some of the game. I don't know what's going on there in Miami. Middle Tennessee's a good team, but listen, they got a good program at UTSA, and it shows in these kinds of games. And it's not surprising that they were able to take that one.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Hurricane group had the South Beach flu last week, because that's kind of what it looked like the way they played that game, and that was and that can happen. You know what I'm saying? The South Beach flu is very popular flu. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
especially at that age.
Very popular. Yeah, very popular. South Beach, New Orleans, there's places where that flu is a lot bigger than it is Syracuse, New York.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Boise State, one of those places that's about the same as Syracuse. Boise State and San Diego State last night. Boise State goes ahead and drops the hammer, 35-13 over San Diego State over the Aztecs.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with San Diego State. I kind of liked them last night. We mentioned during the week, Corey, Hank Bachmeier, the guy who's been a Boise State's quarterback since 1982, entered the transfer portal. They started the guy I thought was better than him anyway, but I thought that would be a close game. Man, what's Brady Hoke doing there at San Diego State? He trying to ruin another program? I mean, how many programs this guy trying to ruin? They had talent last year. They were a good football team. Now they're playing undisciplined. That's another team on the way down. I think you might see them get blown out in a couple games coming up here.
That game was at Boise, Idaho. Let's go to Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, where the Running Rebels were a 31-20 victory over New Mexico. If you laid that 14 with the Running Rebels, man, that sucks.
It's and a game I think a lot of people expected. Those two teams are closer than 14 points, even though a lot of people like this UNLV team. New Mexico, they're one of those. Listen, last week against LSU, they got 2 first downs. That's a mismatch. I'm not talking about that game. Yeah. But they're a pesky underdog, because they got that Rocky Long defense. Sometimes it takes teams a quarter or a half to figure out all his crazy schemes that he's got going there. And so they're a team in that conference I think is going to be very profitable catching double-digit points, because they're tough to blow out.
So we have a game on Sunday.
Yep.
And it's Eastern Washington from the Big Sky. If you're not familiar with Eastern Washington, they're playing Florida, probably a reschedule due to Hurricane Ian, and the Florida is laying 53.5. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. But Eastern Washington, an FCS team, are just getting ready to get their little $1 million check and go down to Florida and get that hind cut.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not laying no 53 and a half. I mean, Eastern Washington got murdered by Oregon this year, but they're actually a pretty good FCS program. I mean, to put it in perspective, Syracuse is 51 over Wagner, who is a terrible FCS football team. So the 53 and a half seems a little much to me to lay in a game like this. Plus, there's all different kinds of variables with the game being moved and the weather and all that stuff. Listen, it's Sunday. Bet the NFL. Don't worry about this game.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. Plenty of action in the NFL tomorrow. Don't worry. You need to worry about Florida and Eastern Washington. I have not seen a number. There was a game rescheduled to next week between UCF and SMU, a little bit of action in between those two teams in the American. Now, I have not seen a number on this game right here yet, Tom. No, I still don't see no number.
It was 3.5. I don't know if they took it off the board.
Maybe that's what it was.
Move. Yeah, okay. UCF was a 3.5 point favorite in that game originally.
Okay, so maybe that's what. Let's just if we go on the theory that's going to be 3.5. What do you think of that one? This game has been moved to Wednesday night. So there you go right there. If you want to get in on a little bit of college football action on Wednesday night, there's no NFL that night. So there you go.
Yeah, no, it's great. Now we got something to do on Wednesday.
Exactly. The only night I don't got nothing to do is Tuesday. If Aaron Judge hit this home run, I'll be good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's always nice to lose money on a Wednesday. It's unexpected benefit of the week. So I lean the underdog here. I think UCF is vastly overrated in the market. I don't think they have a quarterback there. SMU has played some tough games. If it's 3.5 or higher, I would lean taking SMU on Wednesday night.
All right, still got some big games to get into. Come back, rehash some of the noon stuff. Take a second look at some of these marquee matchups. See what the line movement is looking like. Speaking of which, Tom, listen, I love the New York Yankees. Big fan of Aaron Judge. Love to see what he's doing and stuff like that. I don't like the cut-ins. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that. Like I'm watching Tulane last night in Houston, and every time Judge comes up to the plate, I almost feel like it's jinxing me. Like, you know what I mean? Like I want to hear about the home run. I don't have to watch it. I can go watch the replay. When I'm watching college football, I don't like them cutting into the college football game with the Aaron Judge stuff. I know that might be blasphemy as I sit up here with a New York Yankee hat on. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just like, can I just enjoy the college football game? You raise my anxiety when you cut the Judge. You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting because I hate the Yankees, and I don't actually. A lot of people I saw on Twitter, a lot of people were upset. It didn't even really register with me until people started complaining. I will say this: here's the one switch I would make. If they want to show it because it's history over in the corner, that's fine. But I wouldn't take the audio off the game you're watching.
Yes,
because
that's it.
The Tulane's going down the field here in the final seconds, and we're getting the audio of a guy throwing 4 balls to Judge.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the one switch I would make is that I live in New York, so I don't know how many people get these games. I can just flip to the Yankee game.
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? So I have that edge. But it's the audio that bothers me. There's all these crazy plays going on in a football game, and you're listening to this boring baseball broadcast about a guy getting intentionally walked. That's the problem I have with it.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with you on that. Taking the audio is not a good look, especially when you're in the fourth quarter of college football games. And these college football games, these are games that are heavily wagered on, particularly on a Friday night with a good slate like the NCAA had last night. So don't have to deal. Hopefully, we want to deal with that a little bit. But
the spread was in play, Corey. There, right? Like Houston was covering the game, and you had Tulane, so it wasn't like it was just a random. Oh, it's college football. It's 17-3. This
what's so crazy about that?
The spread on.
I had no doubt that Tulane was going to drive down the field and score a touchdown. Even when they went up, even when they were down by 7, I was like, oh, this is going to stink now. But on the drive before, the play that got them into the red zone. That was a busted play. That pass should have been intercepted. Yeah. And I was like, this guy Toon is trying to throw this game away. You know what I mean? But he didn't do it. Holgerson ended up doing it before he could. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
But we did get that one in last night. And hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have hit the money line. Don't forget about the money line. I'm not saying make the money line wager equal to your regular unit, but you might want to sprinkle a little on the money line, especially when you're taking these underdogs, especially when it's less than a touchdown, Tom, because really you're betting them to win the game.
No, it's a good point, Corey. And listen, one of my favorite money line plays of the season, like I said last week, was Oregon State against USC. Now, it didn't win, but if you told me I was going to have a 14-10 lead with one drive that came down to a 4th and 6, do you want the money line? I'll take it, right? No doubt. It's if you think a team is live to win the game, like if you're betting Kentucky today and you say, man, I think they got a shot to win this game, that's a great money line play right there because they're getting a touchdown in what should be a close game on paper. So I agree with you. I love playing money lines.
All right, there we go. We got some line movement on these noon games. I'll tell you exactly what's going on when we come back right here on Homecoming on the Bettor Sports Network.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
The only person, I've said this to you before, who I believe back then, of all those power hitters who truly was clean, Ken Griffey Jr.
I mean, I think so when he got
hurt.
We'll never know that for sure either.
No, dude.
We've seen guys who were not big take substances.
That's true.
Get busted. So it's not about that always.
I hear you. It's just, don't you think with the way his career kind of went, you would think that he didn't take anything?
I don't think he did, but we'll never know 100%.
I'm going to keep telling myself that he didn't. The one year player, I mean, he's my favorite baseball player of all time. In the 1990s, Ron, as a kid, as a 5-year-old kid who plays video games and collected cards, there was no one cooler than Ken Griffey Jr. I still wear my hat backwards because Ken Griffey Jr. did it and he looked really cool doing that, wearing a backwards baseball cap. Like, he made everything the guy did looked cool. Even the home run in the movie Little Big League, it's acting, it's all, I guess, fake, but even he made that look cool. I mean, Ken Griffey Jr., you're a little bit older than me, but in the 90s, besides Michael Jordan, was there a more loved athlete than Ken Griffey Jr.?
Yeah, no, I love Griffey. He's one of my favorite players ever, from defensively to hitting his swing. And yeah, I would have loved to see what he could have done if he had stayed healthy, the final numbers he'd finished with. So, no, I was a huge fan of Ken Griffey, and it's a shame, though, that all those injuries towards the end of his career just really limited the production he put up, but he still put up elite numbers. He was so fun to watch. So I'm a huge Ken Griffey guy.
And here's the other thing, too. So 1994, the season got shortened because of the strike.
And he finished with 40 homers in 111 games that year, man. And then he had 56 2 years in a row, 97 and 98, and then 48. He had a stretch 4 years in a row, 49, 56, 56, 48, 40. I mean, unbelievable. And then, yeah, once he hit like 31, he started to miss games, 111, 70, 53, 83. So think about that, all those years that he lost, and he still hit 630 home runs, man. Yeah. So if he was clean, he would have been the all-time home run champion. Again, we're all guessing here, but you would think, all right, well, once he got into age 31, 32, that's when the body started breaking out, which is typical, right, for someone who's not using anything, whereas we saw Barry Bonds just get better with age. And we did not see that with Griffey. So look at 2001, where he's 31, he played on, look at the home runs decline, 8, 13, 20, 35, 27, 30, 18, 15 to his age 38 season. Even age 39 in 170 games, he had 19 home runs. So he probably would have definitely been the all-time home run leader had he been able to stay healthy.
Bettor Sports Network. It's sports talk done better. Homecoming with Corey Parson and Tom Casale on Bettor Sports Network.
All right, what's up? Welcome in hour 2 of Homecoming right here on the Bettor Sports Network. Corey Parson, Tom Casale taking you up to kickoff of our noon Eastern time starts. Big Saturday of college football. We are into the month of October. Tom, business is starting to pick up. By the time we get to the next 4 weeks, we get into November, we'll start to see what it's really going to look like with our college football playoff.
Yep. Some big games coming up here. We'll start to see some teams fall off. I still think it's going to be a mad race for that last spot. I mean, even if Clemson wins today, I think they have a couple of tough games coming up. I think we feel pretty good about the 3 teams that are going to get in. Ohio State has Michigan, but we'll see. Penn State, we'll see how it goes. But we feel good about those top 3. It's going to be that 4th one. I still think USC is going to run into some trouble. They ran into some trouble last week. They got a couple of games coming up. I just don't know if the defense is there yet. I think they're a year away. We'll see how it goes. One team that's interesting, Corey, that didn't start out great, but it's still in front of them. It's Utah.
Yeah, we talked about,
listen, we mentioned they got a tough game today against Oregon State, but this is a team that if they beat Oregon State, they beat USC, and they finish that Pac-12 championship with just the one loss at the final seconds at Florida, they're going to have a shot to get in. So there's a lot of teams knocking on the door for that number 4 seed in the college football playoff.
Definitely, that's going to be an interesting storyline to watch as we push through the rest of the season. Now today, really first big Saturday, but we got a lot of conference games in play. I want to run through a couple of conference games right quick that caught my eye. Let's start in the Big Ten, where the Terrapins of Maryland welcome in Michigan State. Maryland laying 7.5 in this one. The total is 58.
Yeah, so this is interesting because Michigan State, we mentioned 1,000 times, has a ton of injuries, but Tua's little brother is game time decision. I've been on the air. I haven't seen if they are going to start him. His backup came in and played well against Michigan. The thing I think is interesting is I was watching the live lines when that info was given out that he was a game time decision. The line actually went from 7 to 8.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. It's really embarrassing if you're the quarterback.
So that's interesting to me. This is one I'm going to sit back and just watch. I can't pull the trigger on Michigan State. This is a great spot for them as a touchdown underdog against Maryland, but with their injuries, they have just not looked right. There could be a quarterback change coming. When these teams are playing this bad, I just can't jump on board.
Yeah, no, it's a no-go for me. It'd be interesting to see what happens. Like, I'll catch the final score and handicap and make decisions moving forward from there, but not anything that I'd be interested in that one right there. North Carolina held true to form for me last week. I bet on them, and they got their ass kicked. And in typical fashion, I have yet to win a bet on North Carolina football. Today, they are home, laying 9 points, total 56. Virginia Tech is coming into town. Chapel Hill welcomes the Hokies to town. Shout out to everybody in Chapel Hill. Not too much rain there. Looks like they got good weather going on. North Carolina laying 9 in this one. No bet for me on this one, but 2 ACC teams. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I was the only person in America who had Notre Dame last week. I got one on. Listen, every smart bettor was on North Carolina. But sometimes a game goes exactly like you think. And I just thought Notre Dame's quarterback, they could hide him, because they're just going to run the ball down North Carolina's throat, right? And that's what they did. And I think where the pro bettors are going to adjust their number now is North Carolina might have an all-time bad defense. You look what they've done this year. They can't. Listen, Notre Dame, they would have trouble scoring that many points on my 6th grade youth football team. Yeah. They have no offense, and they were moving the ball like they were playing a high school team. I mean, trust me, Notre Dame's offense is not that good, as they showed last week. So normally I would line up and die to take a team getting 9 points against North Carolina. They're playing a one team I don't want to bet, Virginia Tech, because Justin Fuente had ruined that program. He didn't recruit anybody. The new coach is coming into a tough situation. Yeah. We got to get some better players there. I lean the Hokies only because I wouldn't lay 9 with UNC's defense with your money, but this is a pass for me.
We're seeing DraftKings, FanDuel has gone to 9.5. So is BetMGM. So we're seeing some money on the top hit the screen for the Tar Heels. And the thing about Tech is that's a further recruiting area, particularly when you get down into that 757 area, those 7 cities, that Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area. That's where a lot of good athletes come from, but Tech is not winning that at all. Those kids are going to Florida, to the state of Florida.
Yeah, and that's what that's what Justin Fuente wasn't able to do when he came over from Memphis, and he's no longer there. But you could see it. A couple of years ago is when I first noticed it and said, man, where's the talent on this Virginia Tech team, especially defensively? And Bud Foster's last year, they didn't have anybody, and it didn't get better the following season. So typically, Corey, with recruiting, if you're recruiting poorly, and I'll use Nebraska as an example as well, it shows up on defense, right? If you look at Nebraska's defense, it is terrible, right? Awful. So Scott Frost did not recruit well on that side of the ball. Virginia Tech is in that same category. That's why I think this might be a game where UNC just scores too much, where it's like a 48-31 kind of game, and they can cover the 9.5.
Interesting stuff right there. Tar Heel. No, I'm about to say maybe. No, I'm not. Maybe nothing. I'm not fooling with it.
No,
you won't fool me again, North Carolina. I already got a money line parlay. I don't need nothing else.
No. Stay away from that game. Don't even just check the final score on Tuesday.
There you go. Another game I'm gonna stay away from is LSU versus Auburn. Got this game going on down there in Auburn. 45 is the total. LSU comes in as an 8-point favorite. I seen one shop has already moved the number up to LSU. Laying 8.5, bro. I'm not doing that with Brian Kelly. I'm just because I don't think that. So, it's already rumors coming out that the players hate him. You know what I'm saying? You're already hearing that stuff.
Well, I'm sure they hate him. He's unlikable.
Yeah. When the players hate a coach, some people think, oh, well, that makes them play hard, disciplined, tough. That also can make them be like, you know what? I'm not fooling with this dude, and I'm not fooling with LSU in this spot right here.
Yeah, this is a really tough game because, again, LSU has been a little bit better the start of the season than I thought they would be. I thought they would be more of a middle of the season team to back because, as I always say, you might not like Brian Kelly, but he can coach football.
Yep.
But man, Auburn, jeez, they got pounded at home by Penn State, just physically dominated. They barely beat a Missouri team, which I think is awful at home. Probably should have lost that game. My gut tells me LSU wins this game, but as you said, Corey, this isn't a great spot to bet them. It's a 9-point favorite on the road in the SEC. That's a pass. I would just stay away from this game entirely.
Yeah, this is a conference game, 7 p.m. Eastern time start in that prime time window, but no reason to get on top of this one. Here's interesting. Texas opened up as a 10-point favorite this game versus tonight's game versus West Virginia. That number is all the way down to 7.5. Money hitting the screen for the Mountaineers in this one as they go down to Texas to face the Longhorns. No play on this one for me. If it was a side, it would be with the Mountaineers.
Yeah, same here. I didn't play it. West Virginia has struggled on the road a bit in conference play. I mean, they were blown out at Kansas. That concerns me. I think you're seeing the number dip down because there's whispers that Quinn Ewers is going to play, probably not going to play. Number comes back down. Texas is just not in a spot unless they have their starting quarterback where I'm laying over a touchdown with them. The defense is where the recruiting has suffered at Texas. They've had trouble on that side of the ball. We saw it again last week, could not stop Texas Tech. Just can't lay points like that with teams that are questionable on the defensive side of the ball.
Pac-12 action that nobody will see this game either. Stanford versus Oregon. Oregon laying 17, total 62.5. Nothing really to see here, right, Tom? Not really.
Hey, now listen.
Okay,
now,
what we got?
Listen, this is the last game on the slate. This is late night.
Oh, that's right.
Listen, now if I go 0-5, there is going to be something to see here. I'm going to try to get out with Oregon.
For real.
Don't ever discount that last game on the schedule, Corey. Some of us need that so we can bet on NFL Sunday tomorrow.
No doubt.
But that would be the only way I touch this game. Listen, David Shaw has been a great coach, right? Again, it's like Notre Dame. It's not easy to coach at Stanford. He's done a lot of good things there, but sometimes it comes to a point where maybe it's time for both parties. If the guy he's been struggling there recently at Stanford. The USC was destroying him and let him back in that game late to cover. I think they have a tough one tonight. I think Oregon's starting to play well since Georgia pounded them into the earth like a nail. I think they win this game pretty easily.
Yeah, I'd like to see that Oregon bounce back and get into it because that wasn't pretty in week one, but they've calmed the ship, they've righted the ship, and now they don't have to worry about playing professional teams no more. They look good. All right, let's head back up to the top of the board, starting to see some numbers move right now, particularly with this Michigan and Iowa. These games are kicking off in the next 45 minutes, so really seeing heavy betting coming in on these games right now. Michigan and Iowa. Michigan on the road, laying 10.5. We starting to see some 11. We laying 10. Now we see 10.5. We see 11. We even got an 11.5 at FanDuel. So the Wolverines seeing some money right now, Tom, in the matchup versus Iowa.
Yeah, and like we said, I lean Iowa with the points. One thing about Michigan you got to remember is they lost a lot of key players from last year. It's not the same Michigan team. Now, they have talent on that team. But last week in their first test against Maryland, they struggled a little bit, especially defensively. They were able to run the ball on Maryland, but I was surprised how easily Maryland moved the ball. A couple of turnovers saved Michigan. I don't know if Iowa can do that. Their offense is really hard to watch. This is going to be a slobber knocker. If you're looking for this live, right, see if Iowa's defense can hang in there that first half of a first quarter. If they can, and this is going to be one of those slowly played punting games, it could be a live situation, maybe to take the money line on Iowa at home. But this is Iowa or pass for me. Biggest handle at BetMGM today is on Michigan Wolverines laying 10.5. That's why you've seen that number raised. I remember, Tom, my days, you go into the FanDuel Sportsbook in the Meadowlands, right? If you've ever been to, you've been to Vegas, whatever, maybe you got a sports book in your town now since 2018. There is no place on the face of the earth like the FanDuel Sportsbook in the Meadowlands. The only sportsbook in the country where they warned you when you come inside the door of the sports book, they got to make sure that you don't got that hammer in there with you, Tom. I'm probably not going to be visiting that one anytime soon. I've seen some stuff on Twitter and some things about that sports book. That looks like a rough place to. I don't really want to get in a fist fight over my bet. You know what I mean? I just
Tom, it's like watching. One of the rooms reminds me of a day room in a prison. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it kind of feels like.
It does. I've seen pictures. You're right. It looks like they built it that way. It's listen, hey, you go to a sports book, you're going to have a side. Other people might have a side. There's going to be rooting, but I don't really want to get punched in the nose for winning a bet.
Yeah, no doubt. And it could happen at the FanDuel Sportsbook. So tread lightly. I can imagine that line at that place right now as they're patting people down and getting ready for a big Saturday.
That must be something when the Giants and Jets play. I mean, right.
Well, they make it a little bit more difficult, right? So it's like you have to, if you don't get there by a certain time, you have to park in the stadium and take a shuttle over. So that kind of keeps the crowd a little bit limited. You know what I'm saying? Because when you mix it in like that, but on a Sunday when one of those teams are always home for the most part. So that's how they cover that. But it's definitely not like going to Circa. You know what I'm saying?
No, Circa's like being in a resort. You're almost too comfortable watching the bet. I don't like to be that comfortable when I got money on the line.
There you go, right there. At the FanDuel Sportsbook, you're not gonna have lady coming over bringing you bottle service. You know what I'm saying? No, it's gonna be shorty getting off the 112 in Union County. You know what I'm saying? That worked last night too, so that might be a tough go. But we got let's get back to football. Kentucky and shout out to everybody going to the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. You're our favorite kind of better. We got Kentucky and Ole Miss. Ole Miss laying 6.5 on this one. Total is 54.5. I tell you, they had that classic game, the 42-41 classic, but I think this is a spot right here that's interesting. Tom, what you got for this one?
Yeah, this is a tough game to handicap. You mentioned a lot of people have bet Kentucky, and again, it's not that I care who the public's betting on, but when they're betting on a random underdog like Kentucky, I try to figure out why. What's the appeal, right? And I think the last thing a lot of people have in their head is this team beat Florida. That's 100 years ago, so it doesn't really matter. It's just about the matchup. I think Mississippi's going to be able to run the ball in this game. I feel like they cover this number, but you said you looking at the under here. I think that might be the play in this game.
No doubt. So that's the play I have is that money line and that under. We'll see if that one comes in, if I'm just throwing it away. But, we'll figure it out in a couple hours from now. Oklahoma and TCU, Sooners looking to rebound versus undefeated TCU, laying 5.5 on the road. Noon start coming up in about 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'm in the minority here. I kind of like Oklahoma. A lot of people have a TCU today getting the points at home. I understand why. But as I mentioned earlier, I think Kansas State plays the type of game to give Oklahoma problems. They're going to punch them in the mouth. They're going to run the ball down their throats. TCU is going to want to trade points with them. That's Oklahoma's game. I think at some point Oklahoma pulls away in this game. I think their defense has an edge over TCU's defense. That's the difference late, and Oklahoma covers.
Oklahoma laying at 5 at PointsBet. They're laying 5 at DraftKings. If you want TCU, you can get that with the hook at FanDuel and BetMGM. That's where we're at right now as we approach kickoff out there in Texas. Purdue and Minnesota, 4 straight wins Minnesota has 4 straight wins versus Purdue, but they were the underdogs in those games. Looking at that line right now, see if we have any movement on that one right there with Purdue and Minnesota. As soon as I can find it. The total, the number was 9.5 or 10. It could have moved up by then as money's coming in on Minnesota. Yeah. We know it's 9.5. Minnesota's sitting 9.5 right now. So actually you're getting some action on Purdue.
Yeah, and that's not surprising. We talked about Aiden McConnell, the quarterback for Purdue, missed last game. And I think that's why the line is so big. Questions that a couple injuries for Purdue, but I also think that the line's a little bit of an overreaction. So I didn't play this game, but I would have played Purdue with a double-digit dog because I think there's a little bit of value there.
Yeah, there you go right there. So that one right now sitting 9.5. So people kind of have the same sentiment as Tom. Maybe it's Purdue in the spot like this. Like I said, Minnesota with 4 straight wins versus Purdue, but they were underdogs in all of those games. Much different spot right here. Texas Tech and Kansas State. Kansas State laying 7.5 at home. The under has cashed in each of the last 3 meetings in between these teams.
Yeah, this is a bad spot for Kansas State. The last week was a good spot. You want to take Kansas State when they're getting 2 touchdowns. You don't want to take them when they're laying over a touchdown. It's just the way they play, right? I think this is going to be Texas Tech's a team I'm just having trouble figuring out because they're a lot better than I thought they were going to be entering the season. So I'm probably going to have to readjust how I examine them. This is just, we say it all the time, Corey. Sometimes there's spots to take teams and not to take them. Kansas State laying over a touchdown isn't a great spot for them. So I would lean Texas Tech, keeping this game close.
Talked about it earlier. Illinois and Wisconsin. Wisconsin laying 7. Last 2 matches between these 2 teams. Wisconsin, 69 points. Illinois, 7. But people think Illinois is better this year.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It's
Wisconsin,
down to 6.5, 9. So yeah, people are betting Illinois. It's down to 6.5 across the board.
Yeah, Wisconsin has blown them out because they've been able to run the ball down their throats. Illinois has got a much better defense this year. I think this game is going to be close. I don't buy Wisconsin's quarterback. They lost at home to Washington State, 17-14. So this is going to be a lower scoring game. If our boy Tommy DeVito doesn't turn the ball over for Illinois, and they can just play defense and run the ball, I think they keep this close and one of those ugly, Big Ten, why am I watching this? Why did I bet it kind of games?
Yeah, a game we won't be watching today is Oregon State and Utah. Utah laying 10.5 at home versus the Beavers. Oregon State 4-1 is the Pac-12 underdog the last 2 seasons. I'm on Oregon State getting 10.5 in this one, Tom. In a game that that's essentially blacked out.
Yeah, except for me and 12 other people. But listen, I say it Oregon State's a good football team. Their defense is fast. It's aggressive. I think they have the talent to stay with Utah. The only concern is how are they feeling after last week, letting that game get away. I mean, USC had 10 points in the 4th quarter. They were 1 stop away, and USC, your boy Caleb Williams, makes the play on 4th down, gets them the win. Sometimes we say it a lot. That can have a lingering effect for kids going into Monday, Tuesday. How did they practice this week? Were they sharp? Those things matter. You're playing a team like Utah. You better have a darn good week of practice, or they're going to blow you off the field. That's my only concern. But matchup-wise, I think this is a pretty even matchup. So I like taking the points with Oregon State here.
All right, so now we're all set up for our noon Eastern time starts. Let's head out for a break now. When we come back, got some Group of 5 action we want to get into. Got some marquee matchups we're going to break down, including that big one between North Carolina State and Clemson. And also, where's Georgia at today? Where's Penn State at? Where's Ohio State at? Some of our top teams, they're laying big numbers today. We'll let you know how that looks when we come back right here on Homecoming on the Bettor Sports Network.
Corey Nando and Friends, presented by Mayo Media.
When you're a celebrity quarterback, you got to be a champion. Russell Wilson has been a champion, not a champion no more. Let me read off some of the names right now playing better football at the quarterback position than Russell Wilson. Mitchell Trubisky, who's been a dog, has better numbers than Russell Wilson. Matthew Stafford with Tommy John, better than Russell Wilson. Mac Jones, who throw more passes to the other team than to his own teammates, better than Russell Wilson. 5'5" Baker Mayfield, better than Russell Wilson. $2 Topps Chrome Geno Smith, better than Russell Wilson.
Not $2 anymore, man.
Daniel 10 cents on a dime Jones, better than Russell Wilson. Jacoby Brissett can only throw the ball 4 yards down the field, better than Russell Wilson. Jameis Winston with 4 broken bones on his back, better than Russell Wilson. The list goes on and on and on of people playing better football than Russell Wilson. Celebrity quarterback, he's up here. NFL quarterback, he's down here.
Moose and Keith.
Moose, are you aware that there were 2 gentlemen walking behind you while we were talking?
Yes.
Yes. I saw some guys walking with suitcases or some kind of bags or something.
Angelo, Dave, here's what I love about you. Like, I've never met you in person. I appreciate you looking out. Like, because I've got these like noise canceling headphones on. If I was not paying attention, you're like, by the way, there are
Moose,
people in the background.
You're so dialed into what we're doing. And I saw these guys just walking. I just was making sure that you knew that they were there. Because, I mean, if you're not, I get engaged. When I look at Irizarry, I get engaged and I'm looking and I'm listening on the edge of my seat. We're all doing our best here. I didn't know if you knew they were there. I was getting concerned. I was starting to text Irizarry. Does he know? I do have your number, Moose. I got to call you.
Yeah.
What's so funny, Keith? Stop laughing. There was guys walking behind him. They looked like big guys, too.
They were,
Angelo.
yes.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis.
Someone today asked me a question, and they said, should I pick up Tyler Conklin? And then it was like, what about Logan Thomas? I said, look, and I've said it on this show. What you're doing now is you're getting the guy who did well the previous week, and then it's a cycle. Then you're going to drop him and want the next guy. Logan Thomas scored a touchdown in week 2. He did it in week 3. Now you want to get rid of him. If your tight end scores a touchdown, you're going to be happy. You're not going to look at the 3 for 44. He scored a touchdown.
Right.
Then he doesn't score a touchdown. Oh, damn, he only gave me 6 points. I got to get another one. And that's the problem with the tight end position. You've seen some of the guys in that mid-tier, right? Njoku had 2 bad weeks, monster week. Freiermuth, we saw it with 2, right? Quiet in week 3. Week 2, scored a touchdown. Good week. That's how it is. You got to start looking at these tight ends who kind of on the field a lot, running routes, but that's going to be the nature of the position if you don't have one of those top ones. Once you get past like that top 6, that's what you're dealing with.
Better Sports Network is betting, fantasy, collectibles. It's sports talk done better. Homecoming with Corey Parson and Tom Casale on Better Sports Network.
Week 5 of college football getting ready to kick off in about a little over 30 minutes from now. Getting to our noon Eastern time starts. Got a big day of college football. Some of the marquee matchups we'll break it down today. We'll start discussing those in a second. But first, Tom, I want to hop into a couple of group of 5 games taking place today. Get your thoughts on this one. Let's start in Ohio, where Toledo is 6.5 to 7-point favorite versus Central Michigan. 58.5 is the total. Toledo 2-2 on the season. Central Michigan 1-3.
Yeah, these MAC games can be tough to gauge early on because these teams play out of conference, and obviously, Toledo is going to beat Ohio State, and Central Michigan is going to beat Penn State. So, but when you look at how they played, I thought Central Michigan played Penn State pretty tough. I mean, Toledo they gave up 77 points to Ohio State. I think this line's a little bit overvalued, make it more around 5 or 6 for Toledo. So slight lean to Central Michigan getting the points.
Yeah, I think that would be the way to go if I hopped in on this one, would be Central Michigan getting the points. Let's move over to the Mountain West. San Jose State was a 3-point favorite versus Wyoming. People are actually betting Wyoming, which is interesting. That number's come down. San Jose State laying 2.5 on the road versus the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I like Wyoming a little bit. It's a tough place to play. They're better than they're supposed to be so far this year. Really good coach. I don't know. Listen, there's about 1 billion games on the board. Is this the one you want your life on? Not me. Yeah. I mean, I think the line should be closer to pick. So I would lean Wyoming with a little value on the spread. But if you gave me a bag of money and said, go bet it on this game, I'd probably give you the bag of money back.
You know what it is with Wyoming? It's the uniform.
You hate those uniforms.
I can't deal with those uniforms.
Like the third time you mentioned that.
Yeah, it's like I'm watching the game. It throws me off. I'm like, why this uniform? It's like I guess it's my eyes. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, turn from this, and I just can't watch it.
Well, there's not many teams in sports, Corey, who are rocking the brown and yellow.
Yeah,
you gotta have guts to put that uniform on.
Yeah, so there you go, right there. Let's head out to the American. East Carolina laying 9.5 versus Central Florida. South Florida. The total is 57.5.
Yeah, East Carolina, I like them, but they had a bad loss to Navy last week. Coming back, now they're laying these kind of points on the road. I would lean them, but this again, I'm not going to lay 9.5 with East Carolina on the road right now. But they are by quite a bit the better team in this game.
The total in this game is nose diving from 59 all the way down to 55.5. So you lose 4 points right there. At some point, your bookmakers are not that far off. Maybe you come back the other way. Regardless of whatever you're going to do is probably something that's not going to make my card right here. Conference USA action, Florida Atlantic laying 3 versus North Texas. This is North Texas with the team we were riding last year. Our boy Vaughn Dalzell. Not so much this season, haven't been back, but Florida Atlantic FAU on the road versus North Texas. Total 67.5. Atlantic FAU laying 3.
Yeah, a lot of points in this game, obviously, with the high total. I think FAU too much on defense, a little bit better defense, too much on offense. I like them in this game with the short number.
Yeah, that number has pushed up. Florida Atlantic and Florida A&M is 2 different teams. Florida Atlantic laying 3.5. So there you go, right there. So we're starting at 3.5 is at FanDuel. Everybody else still have 3. So if you want to get in on that one, there would be your opportunity right there. Finally, let's look at the Sun Belt, where you have South Alabama laying 8.5 versus the Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette. 47.5 is a total in this one right here.
Yeah, Louisiana is a little bit disappointing this year.
They are.
They were supposed to be better than they are. I like the South Alabama team. Went into UCLA, should have won that game. A lot of athletes, transfers. I mean, that you think of South Alabama, if you haven't seen them play, they got players that you probably wouldn't think in your head. I mean, they're big, they're fast. I think they win this game today.
Yeah, would you wager on them? Are you that comfortable? Would you lay the number, or would you look for an end game spot? Maybe take the money line, throw it in the parlay. I like South Alabama in this spot, but I don't know if I want to lay that 8.
Yeah, I would. This is more of a money line parlay play, I think.
Okay.
Like I said, Louisiana, those teams could always go one way or the other. They started off slower than people thought. People projected them to be better. Now, which way do they go here? Do they pack it in, or do they start to catch fire and get back to that form people thought they were going to be? This is going to be the game we find out. But I think South Alabama, the defensive line especially impressed me against UCLA with the athletes and the size they had on it. I think they're too much for Louisiana today.
All right, 29 minutes till kickoff. You know what I'm saying? Today is college football action. Let's get to the marquee matchups today. And let's start with the one in Clemson. This is obviously a big game. Is college game day in Death Valley today?
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Figure that. College game day in Death Valley today. Got a big game tonight, big primetime game, big spot for the Clemson Tigers. Are they back? Are they going to get back into it? Obviously, quarterback play, very important. DJU got it done last week. Now the Wolfpack coming to town. The Wolfpack, despite being an underdog, a real big public favorite on the day. Right now, latest I've seen is Clemson laying 7. Total is 46.5. You go ahead and break it down, Tom. I'm going to see if these lines move, if the line moved any.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I got NC State to win the ACC, so I need this one today. It's going to be interesting because, DJ played well at quarterback last week, but this is a different defense. NC State's faster. They're more athletic. They have more depth than Wake Forest does. So this is going to present a bigger challenge. This is the game. If he plays well and gets by this game, I think then we take that stuff and throw it out the window. All right. He's a lot better player this year. Let's forget what we saw last year. That's all over with. They've won like 11 games in a row. It's done. Right. So this is the final test for me. I want to see how he plays against this fast athletic defense. Offensive line's playing better for Clemson, quarterback's playing better. Receivers are playing better for Clemson, quarterback's playing better. That tends to happen, So we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. Both defenses, very athletic. Devin Leary for NC State, DJ for Clemson. Who's going to make the play? Who's going to make the mistake? I think that's what it comes down to. I lean taking the 7 points here because NC State's a team I like, but I know you have Clemson in a money line parlay, and I certainly don't hate that. Tigers at home, they're going to be tough to beat.
We got a 6.5. If you want to hop in on Clemson, you got a 6.5 right now at DraftKings and BetMGM. PointsBet and FanDuel, you're getting a 7. That 7 is juiced on North Carolina State at FanDuel. So that number's getting ready to go to 6.5 too. So we got a trendy underdog in North Carolina State. Going to be a fascinating game to see where both these teams are at in the ACC. Let's come back up top to the Southeastern Conference, where Alabama is laying 17 on the road today versus the Arkansas Razorbacks. Total is 61. As I mentioned, in Alabama, 7-5 on the road versus the SEC team, ATS, on spreads under 20 points. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Alabama laying a big number on the road in conference has not been a lock recently.
No, but I did it, so we'll see how it goes. I got 14.5 on the opener.
That's a better number.
I think this is a bad matchup for Arkansas. Here's the other thing, too. Now, listen, Arkansas is going to be ready to play. It's Alabama. But if you watch the game last week against A&M when the kid missed the easy field goal at the end, the Arkansas kids were crying on the field. Now, I have a rule when kids cry on the field, I bet against them the next game, especially if they're playing Alabama or Georgia. But no,
you ain't got no reason to cry. You know how your parents would say, "I give you a reason to cry."
Right?
Alabama's going to give them
a reason to cry. But more importantly, though, is Bryce Young throws for 559 and 5 touchdowns against them last year. They come in now, Arkansas, with 126th ranked pass defense, giving up over 300 yards per game. Here comes Alabama. Big thing to watch in this game. The Alabama receivers did not play well in the big test against Texas. They're young. They lost a ton of talent to the NFL. Are one or two of these guys going to start to step up? We find out today. If not, if those Alabama receivers can't get open today, then I would strongly lean to Georgia winning the national championship, because Bryce Young's not going to be able to do it all by himself against that Bulldogs defense.
And remember, when we do that, when we're doing the SEC, what we're doing is we're betting it now to win the conference. You don't have to wait till that game. That's going to be the game.
You might as well
hop in there now.
Yep.
Hell, you can even take both sides. You know what I'm saying? So there you go, right there. You know the Heisman House commercials.
Yep.
Great commercials. I like it now that you can have the current athletes in it. It makes it even better. I like the one where Bryce Young is like, "Oh, I got a game," and Barry Sanders like, "It's not Sunday," and he was like, "Oh, he's still in college."
Those are great commercials. Yeah. I like when the one guy's trying to give advice and he goes, "Well, I did play football in junior high." You always have that guy who knows everything because he played freshman football in high school, telling you how to play. But no, those are great commercials. I love that stuff.
All right, let's head out to the the ACC big game down in Tallahassee at Doak Campbell Stadium. Shout out to everybody getting ready for the game down there in Tallahassee. Hope you stayed safe throughout this week with that bad weather down there. Florida State laying 6.5. Total is 67. Wake Forest has won back-to-back games versus Florida State, but people feel different about this Florida State team. I got in on them on the money line. Hopefully they don't resort to their old ways.
Yeah, similar game to NC State and Clemson. I lean taking the points because Wake Forest is usually undervalued in these spots. Florida State, people like them now in the betting community, in the market. They think they're back. So we'll see. Money line parlay, probably the way to go here. Just, this is Florida State team I still want to watch a little bit before I'm all in on them. And Wake Forest is always a tough opponent. They're going to move the ball and score. So lean Wake Forest with the points, but I think Florida State gets it done today.
That line is starting to come in a little bit right now. We're starting to see some 6s, some 6.5s pop on that one right there. So you're seeing Wake Forest. Well, we're still starting to see some 6s. It was 6.5, but we're seeing some people starting to come in on Wake Forest. And it's going to be an interesting game, fascinating contest. 3:30 p.m. Eastern time start right there. So everybody gets a chance to enjoy that one. It's not on the Pac-12 network or some other channels you can't find. The ACC network is the first thing to pop up on my TV, interestingly enough. So maybe that's because I'm in the Atlantic Coast Conference area. That could be the case. Let's head down to Baylor, laying 2.5 versus Oklahoma State. Baylor Bears, 15-3 in their last 18 games. Total 55.5 in this one, this Big 12 contest, Tom.
Yeah, I took Baylor on the money line here. I'm a little worried that Oklahoma State's getting too much love. They played a soft schedule. I think they can still be beat up physically. That's what Baylor likes to do. So I lean them. I know the sharp bettors took Oklahoma State, but only at 3. 3 was where they went off. So they're expecting a close game. They like taking the field goal there. Probably will be a close game. That's why I took the Bears at home on the money line.
This one right here, painted 2.5 across the board. No real line movement on this one right here. So get in the way you fit in on that contest right there. Tom is on the money line in Baylor versus Oklahoma State. Kansas, big root all of a sudden in college football. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, total 58.5. Kansas at home, welcoming Ohio State. Ohio State laying, the last I saw was 3.5 on the road. The Jayhawks 4-0 ATS and on the money line this season, Tom.
Yeah, I think the wrong team might be favored here. At least I think the spread should be closer to even. I like Kansas. I know they're a popular play now. Everyone's getting on them, but I just don't know what Iowa State has done to warrant being over a field goal favorite on the road. I think the market might be a little slow to react to Kansas here. I lean them getting the points at home.
That number at BetMGM has moved to 3. That's a 3:30 Eastern time start. I can see 3s painted across the board by the time we get the kickoff in this game right here, especially with the route that Kansas has become. If that game does not get to 3, I would seriously consider that maybe somebody knows something about Iowa State in this spot. But I would anticipate a line movement in that game right there. Finally, about marquee matchups, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, Tom. State laying 4 at home. Total is 45. State 1-3 as a SEC favorite in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. This is Texas A&M or nothing for me. This is, I think, a good spot to back A&M and a bad spot to back Mississippi State. Now, maybe A&M can't get its offense rolling and they have trouble moving the ball and scoring, but over a field goal with a team that was projected to maybe go to the college football playoff before the season, I think you're getting a little value there. So I lean A&M plus the points.
Here's interesting. This number is moving away from A&M. BetMGM is going to 4.5.
Yeah, it's moving the other way.
Yeah, it's moving the other way. BetMGM is going to 4.5. DraftKings is 4, but you're paying $1.15 if you want to lay the 4. We still got a 3.5 that's FanDuel. Still got a 3.5 at FanDuel, and you got a 4 at PointsBet. Interesting, that 4.5 sitting out there. If you want to hop on A&M, you got a good number right there to get after it. And that's where we at right now, Tom, with our marquee matchups. I feel pretty good. So as far as live betting today goes, if you want to get into this window with some of these marquee matchups, I think you want to kind of pay attention to the Texas A&M, and I also would keep an eye on what's going on with Wake Forest and Florida State.
Yeah, there's going to be some opportunities. I know in the chat we got a Navy Air Force under. What's the total? 17. I saw a stat like these when the service academies play, the under is like hitting like 90% over the past 20 or so years, and it's obvious, right? These teams see the option in practice. It's, Corey, I coach youth football. We split our teams up, and when we play each other, nobody can get when we scrimmage, nobody can get a first down. And they know the plays that are coming, right? They know who's going to get so that's kind of what the option is when they play each other that, we've seen this 100 times in practice. So yeah, there's not going to be too many high scoring service academy games. So I could definitely see the under cashing, even though it's very, very low today.
38.5 is the total between Air Force and Navy. You do have 138 out there, but you're still able to get that hook at most shops. I will take our final break of the program. We'll come back. We still got to talk about these teams laying big wood today. Georgia's laying big wood. Penn State's laying big wood. So is Ohio State and the University of Southern California. We'll give you some information on those games when we come back right here on Homecoming on the Bettor Sports Network.
The Playbook with Fensty and Ronis, presented by FantasyAlarm.com.
Brandon Staley says Joey Bosa suffered a significant groin injury. My goodness, the Chargers. Dude, I'm out. All right, I do this every year. They suck me in. Every year I'm on the Chargers. And what do? They burn me, man. Burn me. Injuries across the board. How was Justin Herbert in that game late? Why did he even play?
That's a good question.
That line moved significantly. It went down to 3.5. So he said, all right, Herbert's probably not going to play. And then on the scoreboard, it said that Chase Daniel was the starting quarterback. Then the line moved again. And, unbelievable, man. So
How much does it have to suck being that guy that tweeted that out? That, on the video scoreboard during dress rehearsal, Chase Daniel.
But when you were reading the tea leaves, you have to be like, you know what? This is not a good play. Like, you can't roll with him. You know he's banged up. There was questions all week. They're a disaster right now. They lost Slater, one of their linemen for the year. They have so many injuries right now. It's the same story with the Chargers every single year, man.
Corey, Nando, and friends. Presented by Mayo Media on Bettor Sports Network.
Allen Robinson, a dog. Once again, a dog. Allen Robinson. Hard to trust him in your lineup. You know what I'm saying?
Trust? Like, I would trust him to do what at this point?
Yeah, exactly. Like, be invisible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Here's it now. This comes from our boy Tommy B. Such an interesting theory. So Tommy would say, and Allen Robinson is like the perfect guy to do this theory with. When a player gets off to a bad start like this, that you drafted highly, don't put him on your bench. Cut him.
Yeah.
Because as long as he's on your team, you're going to think this is the week, and that week is not coming. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you're just eating up all of these bad games. So instead of putting them on the bench and keep tempting yourself, just be done with them. Cut them. And that's where I'm at on Allen Robinson right now. Cut him.
Lunch Money with Kyle and Ray, presented by FantasyGuru.com.
That's the point people miss with Kelsey. They argue there isn't volatility. They argue that he is the dominant dude every week and he gives you an edge every week. And that's why he deserves to be drafted in the second round. He is just that. I get it. He's the best tight end. But Ray, they're acting like every week is a consistent 15, 16, 17 points. It's just not.
At the end of the season, he's going to give you an A+ performance.
No,
okay.
Within the position, he gives you an A+. I don't need an A+ at tight end. I need A+ at running back. I need A+ at wide receiver. I don't need it at tight end, but people think they do. But my argument is, when are people drafting Travis Kelce? People are doing this everywhere, everywhere. And their argument is he's awesome every week. He's the best. We need one tight end. That's it. We need 5 running backs. You're drafting one tight end and you're telling me I got to get the best guy in the second round. I'm going to overpay at a position I don't need. It's just not worth investing in, because even the best guys, they're nowhere near the top 10 on occasion.
Before college football games kick off, it's time for homecoming.
All right, final segment. Getting ready to head off into a big day of college football. Noon Eastern time starts about 13 minutes away. Got a full day of NFL football coming up tomorrow. Obviously, you know that. We got you covered right here on the Bettor Sports Network on Sunday, beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern time. The game day playbook presented by Fantasy Alarm. They set things off. Then at 11 a.m. Eastern time, you get pre-gaming with Front Yard Fantasy. They come up next. They take you all the way to 1. Then 1 p.m. Eastern time, myself, Tom Casale, and Adam Ronis in the 1 o'clock games on the Bettor Zone. Watch party, have a good time, hang out with us, watch me yell at the New England Patriots. And then from 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern time, Holden Kushner and Pilar Lastra in the broadcast day with part 2 of the Bettor Zone. Got you covered all day on Sunday. Fantasy, betting, prop bets, you name it, entertainment, whatever goes down on Sundays, we got you covered right here on the Bettor Sports Network. So make sure you download the free app, hop on here, open it up at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and rock with us for the rest of the day. And we'll all have successful Sundays. That's basically how it goes down, Tom.
Oh, yeah. We're here all Sunday. It's an interesting game tomorrow with our Cowboys. And not a person on earth likes Washington. I can't wait to see how that one turns out, Corey. You got me kind of liking the team now. I mean, what a disaster. It's got disaster written all over it. Tune in tomorrow as 3 Cowboy fans going to go be complaining, going nuts on listen, Corey, I've been betting football for 3 decades. Everything I know about betting NFL says Washington somehow wins that game tomorrow.
100%. I would not for the – and listen, if one thing the Dallas Cowboys do well, they play NFC East teams well. But let me tell you something. This game tomorrow has trap written all over it. Yep. So if you want to see 3 Cowboy fans melt down, be here tomorrow morning beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, and we'll take you all the way to 8 p.m. Eastern time. All right, couple minutes left to go in this program right here. A little bit of track left to go. Let's get into some of our blue bloods. I'm really laying some big numbers today. Let's start with Ohio State. Last I saw was 39-point favorites as Rutgers makes the trip from New Jersey to Columbus, Ohio, and then later on tonight they'll be back in New Jersey.
This number has actually gone down. It was 41.
Oh, okay.
It's gone down to 39. Some love for Rutgers. I wouldn't place a penny on this game. I really wouldn't. Rutgers, I think, is going to have trouble scoring. They run the football. That's what they like to do. It's not going to be tough keeping up with Ohio State running the football. They have issues at quarterback. Ohio State names their number today.
All right, there you go right there. Let's go to Missouri. But I tell you what, Georgia has beat the brakes off Missouri every single time these teams have played. Georgia laying 29 today. Bulldogs had a little bit of a tussle last week. They got the job done. And every time they go to Missouri, it gets embarrassing very early.
Yeah, this is my biggest play of the day. I actually got it the second it came out at 26.5. It's one of my favorite angles to bet. You have a superior team that did not show up last week, right? How do you think practice went this week with Kirby Smart? You think those players paid for that? You can bet that he was not happy with the sleepwalking performance over Kent State. Then they get a middle tier conference opponent where the spread isn't like 50, right? And it's a team that has to run the football to be successful. This Missouri is a bad football team. I'm telling you, man, this is going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly fast. I think Georgia wins by 50 plus points today.
This should be a big-time blowout right here. Definitely expect that to be the case. If you want to hop in on that, even with laying this big wood at 29, I don't see it being a mistake. I see my man Jalen in the chat. What's up, Jalen? What's going on? Jalen, let us know what your card is today. Give us some of your best bet for the day. As a matter of fact, everybody in the chat, let us know what you got today, what you got going on. Give us some of your best bets. We'll see if we add it to our card. The Nittany Lions of Penn State, they're at home today versus their rivals, Northwestern. Hasn't ever been. Maybe it's an academic rivalry, Tom. But as far as football goes, Penn State's laying 25.
Yeah, this game almost made my card. I like Northwestern a little bit today.
Okay,
just a little bit. It's a big number. You got Michigan coming up for Penn State. Maybe start off a little slowly, sleepwalk a little bit. Win this game 31-14, 34-14. I didn't pull the trigger, but I do lean Northwestern getting the points.
I had a buddy of mine, an intern of mine over at NBC when I was at NBC, Tom. He was going into a grad program at Northwestern, and he asked me to do a letter of recommendation for him. And I thought to myself, wow, it's come to the point in my life where I'm writing a letter of recommation for somebody to go to Northwestern. That's big J journalism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they don't mess around there.
Yeah. Those are the snooty journalists. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
They don't write about fantasy. You know what I mean?
No. That's not a little small school in Vermont that gave me a degree. This is a journalism degree, where basically if you just showed up to class, they pass you. This is real school. So, that's big time.
Jalen got Kentucky laying that 6.5. Catching that 6.5. That's one of the most popular bets on the board today. Kentucky as a trendy underdog. He got Kansas 3.5, another popular bet. Boston College, interesting to go with Boston College and laying the 2.5 with Buffalo. So there goes the place for my man Jalen. Good luck to you on those.
Jalen, I tell you right now, when you tune in tomorrow, man, I'm on the Bills big tomorrow. I think they bounce back. Good matchup. Let's roll with it, baby. Oh, that's the Buffalo Bulls. I thought I'm Bulls, sorry. Yeah. Well, hey, bet the Bills tomorrow. Come in the chat, and we'll celebrate back-to-back Buffalo victories.
Listen, that's going to be interesting. The back end of that Ravens defense is problematic, and I think Allens and Diggs can have a good time with it. But the way Lamar Jackson is playing, I think it's going to be an interesting contest. So I can't really count Jackson out right now, but we'll get to that tomorrow. We said Penn State. Let's go USC versus Arizona State. QB1 at home laying 25 versus Arizona State.
Yep, I got two plays here. I took the over early at 57.5. That's gone up now. But the play I really like, and again, this is similar to the Georgia play. USC stymied on offense last week. Now Arizona State is not Oregon State. I think they come out fast. I took USC minus 14.5 on the first half line. That way you can prevent against a backdoor cover with their poor defense. But I think Caleb Williams comes out. I think they get on Arizona State quick and they don't look back.
Yeah, I can see that being the case too. A big week for them right here, coming off that big win last week. They look to hold pace with the rest of the top teams in the country. So I expect a big performance from USC. Not laying that wood tonight. At least not yet. You know what I'm saying? We never know. Florida State lose, guess what? My entire board, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna be hit to make deposit, and then we'll figure it out.
But it's just a different game. Listen, I don't know if the sun has ever been out in Corvallis, but you go and play Oregon State, right? It's that dreary, dark stadium. It's, you're having trouble completing passes. It looks like it's minus 20 degrees out there. But so I think this game sets up a lot better for USC in their offense.
Speaking of college football environments, I think last week was the first time I've ever seen Notre Dame play a road game. It seems like Notre Dame play at home every week. I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? It's always the Golden Domers. And I'm like, when I turned the game on last week, I was like, where's this at? You know what I mean? And it was Chapel Hill. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Notre Dame does schedule pretty tough. I mean, you can, make fun of them for certain. But the thing about environment, remember last week, Corey, I said I did research and Ole Miss was number 1 in tailgating in every list. Well, Lane Kiffin isn't happy about it. Maybe he was listening to the show.
Yeah, maybe so.
The fans. He said, "You guys too busy drinking and partying. Show up to the game and root for your team." So I guess maybe number 1 tailgating doesn't equal number 1 fans.
No, it doesn't. I guess not. But I think they'll be inside the building this week. They got that. Well, not this week, but they got that big game. Washington State and Cal. Washington State laying 3 versus Cal.
Yeah, this number's gone the other way. I kind of liked Washington State all week. It never moved off 4. I mean, it's rare that a college football game has a number and you don't see it move. That's been on 4 all week. Now it's come down to Cal. I'm going to stay away from this one. Listen, Washington State, a tough loss last week in a game where they led Oregon. Maybe they have a little trouble getting going, but hey, the money's coming in on Cal now late.
This is a fascinating game right here. Troy versus Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky laying 5. The Hilltoppers laying 5. I think Troy might be live, though.
I agree with you. I was going to say the same thing. Troy is sneaky pretty good. I know a lot of people don't know about them. Western Kentucky, you can move the ball on their defense. Troy, I think, upset City today.
Ooh, money line? Let me see if we can find where we find the money line for that one at. Well, I look for the money line. What do you think? I'm about to say you're Nebraska Cornhuskers, but I'm not going to put them on you.
I mean, the money's back on them again, right? The Sharp. I mean, I've never seen a team so bad that the Sharps opened up at 4. It's up to 6. I don't even. There's better games on the board than Nebraska and Indiana.
Yeah, definitely. There's better games on the board than Nebraska and Indiana. Jalen, your Buffalo Bulls. That number is pushed up to 3, about 3 painted everywhere just now. So that number's going in the right direction.
And Jalen, I'm sure you probably might know this. That is one of the big pro better games today. Buffalo actually opened as the underdog in this game. There's been a lot of money coming in on the Bulls today.
Yeah, you got Buffalo at home today versus Miami, Ohio. The hook is gone. Well, you still got the hook at FanDuel. That's DraftKings, excuse me. You still got the hook at DraftKings if you want to bet Arkansas at 17.5. Outside of that, it's Alabama minus 17, painted across the board. That's latest line moving that. That game starts at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. Other than that, really the board not lighting up too much right now. Kind of quiet. Well, we see that. Oh, look at that. That Navy and Air Force number is ticking down. And then, that's really it. And starting to see some money coming on Boston College, which I'm not going to be able to do that. Not going to be able to get down with that one right there. All right, Tom, thanks a lot, my man. Good stuff. Let's get out to a good week this weekend.
Yeah, well, I don't have much. I'm just betting Alabama, Georgia, and USC, so I've pretty much given up. Let's try again tomorrow.
All right, there you go. I want to thank our producers for making sure that we sound good. I want to thank all of you for checking in and rocking with us. Don't forget, we're back here tomorrow morning beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern time for a big day of NFL football. Oh, don't forget, bet with your head, not over your head. We want to see you back here tomorrow. For Tom Casale, I'm Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Good luck, people.